So are there any further speakers on this part?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I just want to make a few comments in relation to the somewhat narrow comments made by the previous speaker, and in particular the rather nasty assertion that the government was not taking public transport seriously. The reality is that public transport is a very big chunk of the spend, and we are going to continue doing that. And the member might like to reflect that while a previous government spent a lot of time promising projects, they did very little to deliver them. And it's the current government that has actually funded them. And the member may find that slightly amusing, but it is somewhat typical of how you get a particular persuasion in New Zealand's politics behaving. The reality is that the transport network in New Zealand is a great deal bigger and a great deal more complex than just saying, let's put a tunnel from Britomart up north of Albert Street for about 1.5 keys to create a bit of a loop. There is, in fact, very little evidence that there would be any effect from a project like that beyond perhaps 1 or 2 years at the end of this decade. So we do have to look at all of these things in quite a broad perspective. And there is also, I'm sure, quite a strong opinion in Auckland that the roads that have been built there over the last 10 years, I would like to concede, but in particular things like the Victoria Park project have made a difference to the way traffic moves through that city. And, well, the member says it's gridlock last week. Let me tell you, if a train became derailed in a tunnel, it would be a great deal more gridlock than a car accident on a highway. Those are things that can't particularly be helped. I guess if we're all on bicycles or horses or some other sort of past transport mode like that, then we might have such a degree of congestion, but then we wouldn't have the pace in our economy that people expect today. There is a need for roading to be fair and appropriately applied across the country, and we do have a program that sees those 7 roads of national significance. We do have 2 very important South Island roads. One of them now opened, the Christchurch Southern Motorway Link, and of course then the Western Ring Route, which is being put in as well. Further south, it's going to be it gets to be rather like the Auckland Rail Loop, where you've actually got declining patronage on the rail in Auckland, declining patronage on the rail in Auckland, and therefore a much weaker case for even considering what might be done in the future. The one member just suggested there that we look at some of our cost-benefit ratios. Well, this is where our opponents really get upset, because some of those cost-benefit ratios are very, very good for those various projects that I've just mentioned. And the sad thing is, it wouldn't matter how good they looked. Ideologically, there's going to be opposition to them. The reality is that New Zealanders like their cars. New Zealanders like to be on motorways. New Zealanders like to move around with the freedom that automobiles give them, and New Zealanders pay for those roads through their excise tax, through their road user charges, and they should have a right to expect there is good planning around them. So, Mr Speaker, I think that this has been a very good year for New Zealand's Ministry of Transport and the transport agencies that sit underneath it, including all of those agencies that are engaged in safety of various types, making sure that consumers who are using our networks are doing so in a safe manner. I want to finally say no one should underestimate the huge commitment that this government has continued with New Zealand Rail, Kiwi Rail. And the $1 billion or $750 million that's gone into that company over the last couple of years to recapitalise it have been extremely important for making sure that we get more freight on the rail, therefore taking some pressure off the roads. And of course there is going to need to be an ongoing capital commitment to that company for some time to come. All in all, Mr Speaker, I think our transport network is in good shape, but it needs constant improvement, constant investment, and constant commitment to it.
Any further speakers? The question is that the report of the Transport and Industrial Relations Committee on the 2011-12 financial review of the Ministry of Transport be noted. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. I understand the next financial review members wish to debate is the financial review of the Ministry of Economic Development. Well, members, please turn to the Commerce Committee's report. The question is that the report of the Commerce Committee on the 2011-12 financial review of the Ministry of Economic Development be noted.
Mr. Chair.
Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The Super 15 rugby season is